Hello, my name's Barb Gray, and I'm here in the Royal Canadian Geographic Society's building, which is absolutely gorgeous. And I'm with Rosemary Thompson, the VP of Communications and Marketing here. And Rosemary has kindly offered to give us information about this submersible, which is so exciting. And you can see from this poster, luckily it's been extended the time.
It has been a couple of times. It came almost a year ago in June, and we were supposed to only have it until the fall, and then it was extended until the spring. And there's a possibility that we might have it a little bit longer. We're still not sure, but it's been very popular with residents, visitors. We had more than 20,000 people visit it last summer alone.
That's wonderful, and I guess the extension will rely on James Cameron.
Right. I mean, he is the driving force behind it. James Cameron was one of the designers of this remarkable submersible, which went to the deepest part of the ocean, the Mariana Trench. And it's so deep, it's actually as deep as Everest is high. Like, it's that deep, that part of the ocean. And so it was a bit of an engineering miracle. He worked extremely hard with the team, and this dive happened in 2012.
Right, so we'll walk over now and have a look at the submersible. And it's huge.
It is big, and it's different than most submarines because people think submarines go this way, right? But this is actually this way, went down vertically. And so it was a very clever design, and it was supposed to match actually the way some fish dive into very deep depths. And so this was part of the genius of Cameron. And if you take a look at this very cool capsule, it's tiny, right, Barb? But Cameron was in it, and Cameron is a tall man. Cameron is, I'd say, 6'5". We've seen him twice, actually, at Canadian Geographic over the last year.
That's wonderful that he deems to come here.
He's been twice. He came last July, which was amazing. And of course, it was a bit of a sensation, and we did a lot of media with him, and he did a fantastic live stream, which went across the country. And but then he came again in February because he won the Order of Canada, and there were actually 5 members of the Royal Canadian Geographical Society that won the Order of Canada at the same time. And so we had a big dinner in front of the submersible, and Cameron was here. So he's very engaged with Canada. He cares about Canada, and he'd actually like this submersible to stay in Canada. That's his great desire. So we're working on that right now.
Right, so this very small capsule is, how long was he in this small capsule?
Well, they did many test dives, but the actual dive, he was in it for 9 hours. So yeah, a long time. And so he did Pilates, he told us, to train, to have, the flexibility to stay in such a confined space for such a long time. Now, I would be very claustrophobic to do what he did, but he did it. And of course, he had only a very tiny porthole to see through. You can see it there. It's very, very small. And it was actually covered for much of it because he had a camera, and he was taking, visuals and picking up specimens through these robotic arms. But he did open it to look with his own eye, the human eye, because he said that, of course, to experience something through the human eye is completely different than through video or any kind of screen. He wanted to actually see it for himself.
Yes, and when you think of this going to the deepest abyss of the sea, then you think of how high we've gone to the moon. So we're quite incredible as human beings.
Yes, I think that's really what he's about. James Cameron believes that curiosity is what drives human ingenuity. And of course, he's been one of the greatest filmmakers, artists, and scientists. Many people don't know about his science background, and I think that's what's so fascinating about this exhibition, because we think of him for his films. But he actually, as a child, was fascinated by deep sea exploration. And we have a sketch of his from when he was 13 or 14 that he drew outside the ROM of a submersible, and that was the beginning of the inspiration to build this.
Yes, and as you said, not many people know he was an inveterate explorer.
Well, what's fascinating about this whole exhibition is we've gotten to know James Cameron and his friends, his circle of friends that are into deep sea exploration, and it's quite a small community internationally. And perhaps his best friend is a man called Joe McInnes, Dr. Joe McInnes. He's in his 80s now, but when Cameron was a young boy, he drew this submersible that Joe McInnes was behind, and he wrote to Joe McInnes as a teenager and said to McInnes, "I want to build one of these myself." And McInnes, this is the 60s, so you wrote. So he wrote, and McInnes wrote back. I mean, how fabulous, and said, well, this is how I would do it, and I'd get a couple of glass jars, and you could get some materials, and it formed a lifelong friendship. They're still very, very close. McInnes in his 80s, Cameron in his 60s, and McInnes was the one who was at the forefront of deep sea exploration in this country. So McInnes was going under the Arctic and under the ice, and then later was involved in many of the dives to the Titanic. McInnes was like a medical expert and was going down on those dives and was part of the IMAX film that made the Titanic documentary. This was many years ago. And he invited Cameron to go. And of course, Cameron was very, enthralled by the whole thing. And then sure enough, Cameron made the film Titanic after that. So, because he became engaged with this broader community. So that friendship has been on display here for the last year, those two men, and it's been fantastic to have them with us.
That's wonderful. So let's take a look at this submersible. It's just amazing to think that it actually went down vertically.
Yes. Yeah, so ultimately, I mean, it's amazing if you were to think of it standing, like this. It's quite a big object. And it's filled with buoyancy, actually. So unlike many submersibles, it's filled with foam, actually. You can see the sort of the light color in there, and that's foam. And that would create the buoyancy so that when, he had these ballasts at the bottom of it, and it would take him down to the bottom, but then when he had to go up, he dropped the ballast and up it went. Now, the pressure, that's why it's called pressure, is intense. You can't do this, humanly impossible to do this. You wouldn't survive. So the capsule, of course, is a protected space, and this is how they did it. What's fascinating about this submersible is it's very different technology than the Titan, which of course imploded last summer.
Yes.
And fascinating, the community of deep sea explorers that was part of this, of course, knew the people from the Titan, because it's a very small community. So when the Titan imploded, we heard from Joe McInnes and James Cameron very quickly, and they said, this is before anyone knew. They said, we believe it's an implosion, because they felt that the technology wasn't really strong enough to withstand the number of dives that submersible took. So again, we were part of this really interesting conversation last summer.
Yes, it's quite amazing. And I heard that when James was inside his little capsule, halfway down he realized that he could actually die. It could be a tomb.
Of course. There's no way to rescue them.
No.
There's no way to rescue them. No. And so you have to believe in your team. Obviously, it's a team that's above water on, the platform, the ship. They were able to communicate with him, but ultimately they can't rescue you. If something were to happen, very difficult. It's like the Titan. There's really nothing that can be done. But you have to believe in your team, in your technology, in your training, and they did. I mean, this was tested over and over again to make sure that it worked, and so there you go, he did it.
Yes, it's wonderful technology. Now, you told me earlier that it may be off to Australia.
That's the plan. So this is an object that is in great demand. It's been exhibited in Los Angeles, and now here in Canada, and we really hope that someday it has a permanent home in Canada that's here. But yes, Australia wants it, and certainly the States want it back again. So it was a historically significant dive, and the world is fascinated by it.
It is. So we'd like to invite everyone to come and experience. This is historic.
Yeah.
And to see the other side of James Cameron.
Right, exactly.
And they can find it here at 50 Sussex Drive. Lovely location for your building.
Yeah, it's right beside the French Embassy by the Rideau Falls. Very beautiful spot. And of course, go to our website, which is, canadiangeographic.ca, and you can get all the information that you need.
Yes, I'd like to thank you very much, Rosemary, for
You're welcome.
the information on this amazing, amazing exhibition.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm here again with B. Hancock, and we're going to discuss a little more of the techniques of the submersible. For example, did the submersible have a cover on it, B?
Right. So one really cool aspect of this sub is that no, it did not. They actually really wanted to avoid any hollow spaces in the sub because due to that pressure, those would implode very easily. So for this section, they let the water in. If you come in close, you can actually see sections where there are holes in this cover. They let the water in so that the pressure would be the same on the inside and the outside. And it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't think that's plastic, but it could be plastic, that cover, and it was going to be fine.
Yes,
Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant engineering.
Pretty cool.
And of course, we know James Cameron was an artist, and it was from his genius that this arrived. Now, how was it propelled through the water? What was the fuel?
Ooh, okay, so what moved it through the water was its propellers. And so we've got these propellers, and they're powered by these batteries here, which are rechargeable lithium ion. And just like this whole section where they have fluid on the inside to protect from the pressure, these little boxes, which are actually plastic, are full of a silicone oil. So these batteries could be let out into the ocean, but because they're in that protective case, they're fine. So that's what keeps them going.
Yes, so it has holes also.
Yeah. See them right there.
Yes. So this is, where was the capsule put on
Right.
to the submersible?
Yes, so the capsule, if we're gonna move over here, we can do a little funky mirror if you like, but I'm gonna point to the mirror over there where you can see a porthole. The capsule was right here at the bottom.
Right.
Yeah.
So this was the bottom or the top?
This is the bottom.
So he was in the capsule and he would look through the porthole.
Yeah,
To
exactly.
the bottom. Yes, brilliant design. To think
Yeah.
that he actually went to the deepest part and came back is amazing.
Yeah. I think he made a comment as to the effect that lots of people make it to the bottom of the ocean, but it's coming back up.
That's
the
right.
impressive
That's
part, right? But-
Yes. Long way to swim.
yeah, really.
Yes.
What's
So,
the mini capsule made of?
oh yes.
Ooh, steel. A special kind of steel called EN26, sourced in Australia and New Zealand. And they actually used to use that steel to make gun barrels.
Oh my word.
pretty strong.
Yes. It's brilliant because of the detail.
Yeah.
It's not just a huge submersible.
Yeah.
It's so much detail for the danger.
No, for sure. Every little bit was gone over and tested and like.
And how
yeah.
long did it take them to arrive to this point?
So we often say 10 years from when he actively began pondering this, speaking with Ron Allen, his co-engineer, and then 7 years actively building it. And that was in a secret workshop in Sydney because a couple of other people also wanted to be the first to be solo visiting down there. So
Right.
I had to make sure they got that done.
And as Rosemary said, when he was a teenager, he did a drawing. And
Yes.
Yeah,
And then made his own little, I mean, they called it habitat, but submersible. Yes, with a mouth that did survive. That's the important thing, right? If the mouse didn't survive, we wouldn't want to tell the story.
No.
But no, success. It's a success story. I
It
like
is. It's just wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Bea, for
Yeah.
filling us in on some of the technicalities of
Thanks
this.
for letting me talk about it.
Thank you.